Well, good morning, everybody. This is the Smart Networker. I'm Dave Rolfe, and it is Monday, November 14th in the year 2022. And winter is starting to happen all over the place, and our business is coming to the end of a cycle, the end of a year. Got a couple of months left to go. We're in the holiday season, which is typically one of the better time frames of our business. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is probably more fundamental and deals with all senses of time. And it's in the sense of understanding your business and understanding what you need to do and understanding how to go about getting the results that you want to get. And as I was listening to a video the other day, and it was start planning your next year. And that's important, but not now. It's important maybe at the end of the year. Start planning your next year, but you still have plenty of time. And what I've seen in this business time and time again, all manner of things can occur at any time. It doesn't really have to be a time, and it's based on what it's really based on is you and what you do and how you direct traffic and how you deal with what needs to be dealt with. In other words, what you confront, what you look at, how you handle it. Your willingness, your desire, your intention, those kind of things. And I was just at a meeting and to discuss, business topics and ideas and strategies for moving forward. And I was confronted with a whole bunch of stuff, just like we all are, different aspects of our business, different problems, different challenges, different issues, different people, different circumstances, different wants, different needs, different directions, different time schedules, different family situations, different lifestyles. And then, well, how do you put it all together? Becomes it's like we got all this stuff going on, and how do you remain focused so that you can get go after what you want to go after. And when I reflect back to my earlier days of developing and building this business, and that's where I gain a lot of information to speak to you about, I was confronted with the same stuff. I had all kinds of different people in all kinds of different areas of the world doing all kinds of different things with all kinds of different circumstances, with all kinds of different problems, issues, challenges, et cetera, et cetera. And if they all came at me at once and piled them on my head, I would be buried, 10 feet under, and I wouldn't have any way to move out and see what was going on. But the end result of that learning curve and that experience over time was realizing that each one of us has our own objective of what we want to accomplish, but we're all using the same vehicle to get there. So I thought I'd go over something that we've gone over before to be very helpful in where you want to go and how you can put it together and make it work. This was a technology that I found elsewhere. What we're going to talk about today is called your administrative scale, short admin scale, and it's an idea that came about for making sure that everything that you want is looked at and coordinated. So this is a fascinating subject, but it's and we'll see what we can do to make it work. But when I was at that meeting, I brought this up over the weekend and or near the end of last week, and it was very helpful in what we were able to accomplish. So I'm going to get you to write this down because I didn't print the slide. But you want to write this down and then utilize it as a format. And this by the way, can be utilized to solve or resolve anything, which is really remarkable because what's really important is, and you'll see it's the coordination of energies to create, what you want. So the first one is your goal. So that's the first one. And again, we're going to, I'll list them all down. You've seen this before. It's on daverolfe.com, but I want to do it again. So because to me, I realized how the importance of coordination of information. The second is the purpose. Now, when I looked at the goal is, whatever the goal is, and what's the purpose of that goal? And the purpose would be lesser goals. In other words, you got the big goal, but let's say the big goal was to make $20,000 or $100,000 a year. And the purpose for that is, well, you've got lesser goals. You got to pay the mortgage, you got to send the kids to school, you got your medical bills, you've got, your car payment, your mortgage payment, all those kind of things. So that then, in a sense, is the area for your why. Now, again, you've all heard of this before. You got to figure out your why, and it can be difficult or simple. Why your hair color is gray is one of those questions that you could have 10 million answers. Why you're doing this business, you could make it complex or simple. It's to get what you want. And the want is the goal. So again, from the standpoint of just coordination, you got your goal and then you got your purpose, and the purpose is other minor sub goals. The next down on the list is your policy. Now, in our business, we have a couple of areas for policy. We have the Nikken policy and procedures, and these are rules that you need to follow. And then you have your own policies that you create that you're going to adhere to or operate on. Now, as an example, when I was starting this business, one of the policies that I created with an individual in my business is that we would talk often every day. And it was okay for me to call them. So I wanted to set that policy up so that the door was always open for communication for me to call that person. And I wanted their agreement that that was okay to be done. And I learned this over time. I've run into people that said, don't call my downline. Well, they're in my business too. This is kind of a silly thing, it's like, what are you protecting? So it's one of those issues that policies are things to follow. Another one was, well, in network marketing, you work from home. Now, this opens up a tremendous opportunity to be lazy, to not do things, to get sidetracked, to get, bombarded with other parts of life that if you worked in an office for a job, that those things wouldn't happen. Let's say, for example, you work in an office and you're downtown with the city that you work, and you're 20 miles from home, and you've got bosses, you've got other employees around you, and your family's not going to walk in there and say, hey, I need your, they're just not going to do that. But when we work from home, we allow that to happen. So those kind of policies are, well, I need to inform my family that this is what I'm doing, and this is where I work, and this is the time frame. Again, it's all based on effective communication, and that's really what this is all about. So now you got your goal, you got your sub goal, which is your purposes, which absolutely establishes your why. And now that you have your kind of policies of how you're going to operate. And of course, if you're playing with Nikken or any other networking business for that matter, you've got the rules of engagement that have been given to you. Now, the next thing, and it's kind of a general area, but what's the basic plan that you've got to operate on to get this goal? What's the idea here? Now, if you were doing this as, say, a startup, and you were with say a partner, and you say, well, the goal is we want to create this business that's going to provide our income for our life and pay for our family stuff. And the reason why we've got this goal is because we need the cash flow to pay the bills. And the policy we're going to operate is we're both going to meet at the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to do the rest, blah, 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 blah. And the basic overall plan is we're going to make potato French fries. The reason why I said that is because I was at dinner on Saturday, and they were talking about the guy that sold the potatoes to McDonald's, and his house in Idaho has become a mansion and a tourist attraction. And here's this one guy that sells McDonald's all their potatoes. Wow. But again, so can you imagine what his plan was? Well, I'm going to sell McDonald's all my potatoes, or I'm just going to sell my, again, it started somewhere. But the basic idea is, what's your plan? Now, because of we're in this, is your plan should be, around what it is that you've got going. So it's to do this, become an independent distributor with this company called Nikken. That's the basic plan. Now, that's just the general stuff, right? That's the overall idea. But again, it's part and parcel of the commitment. So let's if we flip this and we're talking to a new person, then you want to give this to the new person, and the new person saying, well, the plan is I want to do this. Okay, good. Now, the next thing that is part of it was called programs, and programs were basically step-by-step directions of things to do. So you got the basic plan. Now what's next? And so at the very beginning of this business, what I realized and what I was taught and what I learned to do was the step was follow the compensation plan, because it in a sense was the plan. It was the strategy. It was go from, you start at zero, and then you work your way up the plan, and then all of the bells and whistles that are required are there. Very interestingly enough. And then we had a program that we did to market this, and the first part of that program was become a customer. And then you move from there. So the program, the step-by-steps that you're going to be involved with are basically the Nikken compensation plan, or the Nikken, you can call it whatever you want. But you start off, and the first one is you're a direct distributor. Okay, well, what do you do? Then you become an executive. Well, what do you do? Then you go to silver. What do you do, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I found that in doing that, what was really important in this overall program that I was working on was to make sure I'm communicating with my upline, my support, my mentors, to understand this program. What does it really mean? And I'll give you a prime example of this, so that makes sense. So let's say that the first step is you want to go to silver. And that's the first leadership level that you're striving to get. So you look at the program, you look at what Nikken says, and Nikken says you have to do 6,000. It says a couple of other things, and it says you've got time to do that. And you go out and you sell some product, and you recruit a couple of people, and you amass or accumulate that 6,000 points. Now, what I was taught was, in building that level, I need to be looking at the next level. In other words, what's the next level made up of that this level will contribute to? So for in my day, if you wanted to go to the next level, which was gold, you needed 3 silvers. So when you were building a silver distributorship, part of your thought process was people in that group that then could become silver to go to gold. Now, one of the things that I learned was that it's much easier to get to your objective if you have help. And I really want you to look at that, because that's really important as part of, creating the program that you're going to operate on. So for example, let's say the goal was 6,000 points. And you've got two choices. You can do the 6,000 points, or you can find 3 people to help you, and each one of those does 2,000, which is easier, but you also want to look at that in relationship to the next step, because that's the key to this building. This is why you do this, so that you can understand the activities that you need to do. So in the next step in our program is gold, and gold requires 15,000 points, and you have to have a couple of distributors, but only to the executive level. You don't have to help them get to the silver level. But what if you changed that thought process? What if you looked at that and said, okay, I want to go to gold, but I'm going to go to gold with 3 silvers. What does the silver have to do? The silver has to do 6,000 points. Well, what's 3 times 6,000? That's 18,000. What's the requirement to go gold? 15,000. So in other words, with just a slight tweak in your thinking process and your planning and strategy, you now start off with, here you are by yourself. Now you're going to go find 1, 2, 3 people that are going to play. You're going to help them get to executive. Then if you help them get to silver, guess what happens? You go to gold. But it also, if you look again into the future as part of your program, and this is the overall plan and following the compensation plan, what's the next level up? Well, the next level up is called platinum. Well, what's the requirement of platinum? Well, it's 30,000 points. So now that's twice what you did for gold. Now, are you going to do that by yourself, or do you need help? So part of the planning in this program is to look at, how are you going to accomplish this job? What's it made up of, and how many pieces of this thing do you have to put together? So you start off with, you're by yourself. You go find your first person and they want to do the business. Then you find your second. So you find 3 people that want to become distributors. They get to the executive level. Then you have 3 distributors that want to get to the silver level. Then you have those silvers that want to get to gold, and that's how it grew. So when I was educated on this, what I realized was that what I have to make sure I do is incorporate other people into what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. It's not all about me. So that becomes the basic program of following the compensation plan, and then putting in the pieces of that make it work. Now, what's the next step? Well, the next step after this would be your training, your education, your projects that you have to do. Say, for example, you had an event to go to, a convention to go to. These are all the things that are going to help you get to where you want to get to. So, for example, in building this business, I found that, going to meetings was very important. So in our world, it's going on Zooms, or going to somebody's home, or going to a Humans Being More, or going to a convention, or going to whatever the event is. And again, it's the activities of the business that become important. One of the definitions that I found to be very valuable to me was the definition of a leader. And the definition of a leader is someone that establishes activities so that production will occur. So if you're looking at building a business, and you look at your organization and you look at what it's made up of, and again, it's not just you, it's you and a team, and multiple teams of individuals on their own schedule, doing their own thing, wanting their own stuff, doing with their lifestyle and all that sort of stuff. And again, it's the coordination of that activity that becomes important. So, for example, somebody new comes into the business. Now, do they know what to do? Do they know how to plan? Do they know how to strategize? Do they know what to how to contact the people on their list? Do they know how to tell the story? Do they have a story? Do they have a presentation? Do they have, all of those things. So what I learned again at the beginning from my mentor was, and this follows that definition of the leader, is that you establish an activity so that productive things can take place. So you have a meeting at your home. You invite people to come to the meeting. So you have other people in your group that are making phone calls, sending out texts, doing all that stuff, and they're going to come to the meeting, right? Well, how did that come about? Because you established the meeting. So then those productive activities can take place. So you're building the business, you're sitting at home, and you're not planning any activities to happen other than your own activities. Well, take a look at that, because that's part of, how this works. So that could come in the projects area, after your program. It could be part of the program, is to make sure that you're establishing activities. You've seen on some of the videos that I've done, the couple, Ralph and Jerry, my neighbors, and so they had to launch their business. That was the key. So the idea that I put on her plate and gave her as an example is, we're going to have parties at your house over a series of 3 weeks. You invite the people, I'll come and do the meeting. So had we not done that, guess what? People wouldn't have come to the meeting. People wouldn't have found out about the business, and her business wouldn't have grown. So if you think about this in the standpoint of creating your business, part of your job is to put out there the activities that make it work and get them going. So list out other activities. What are other activities? Well, making phone calls, sending out texts, learning a new program that the company offers to invite people to take a look at your business and sell product to. So those kind of things. Now, the next step is rather interesting. And this is an area that takes time for many people that have not been used to working at home. And that's the idea of getting up and going to work. It's the idea of creating some kind of mechanism that causes you to do things. So I realized when I first started working at home, it was easy to get distracted. It was easy to get caught up in, the house stuff, the family stuff, the kids stuff, the pet stuff, the TV stuff, whatever it was that was distracting. It was easy to do when you worked at home. So I had to set up some kind of a system that replicated working in an office, that allowed me to stay focused, because here's why. What we do is no different than anything else that anybody else does. We put in time. We are involved in representing a company. Our job is to sell the products and find new distributors who sell the products. Now, we can go small or big, and there are no limitations to what we do. You're the one that limits what you do. That's the bottom line. So it's not what's out there that's limiting you, it's you that's limiting you. So it's a matter of being organized and being focused that gets the job done. So therefore, you have to kind of get yourself motivated to go to work. You have to have a way to monitor your activities. You have to give yourself orders, but you also have to give your downline orders. Now, what's an order? Well, it's let's go to the meeting. Let's call 20 people today. Or you could say, let's have a call-in party. Let's all get together and we'll make phone calls to invite people to a meeting. Let's have a meeting and get everybody focused on coming to the meeting. So I remember I had left the business for a while in 1992, and I came back and I was regenerating and getting going. And I just looked at, well, what did I do before? Well, I had a meeting. And so I called a meeting, and I think at the first meeting, 3 or 4 people showed up. Well, I didn't have much support of that, and they were basically older distributors, no new public, and it was kind of like, wow. So what I needed to then understand and focus on is I have to increase this activity. Now, we did get up to having hundreds coming to our weekly meetings, but it was just being focused and dedicated, and then having more people join the team and then doing the same activity. But it all came, we're having a meeting on Thursday night. I want you to be there, okay? Okay. What did you do? You kind of set the pace. You created an activity that needs to be taken care of. You gave out the order. You're there yourself. You're taking responsibility, so as part of your team. Now, the next one, we've all had some familiarity with. And it's basically, what's the ideal scene? In other words, what's the best case scenario? What does what you want look like? Now, we all went to Humans Be More or Silver Training or whatever it was called, and we did that exercise where we put pictures on it was our life cycle plan, and we want trips and we want houses and we want cars and all that sort of stuff. So again, how would we define your ideal scene? Then this is one of those very important things. So it's how would you describe your business in a perfect position? So I've thought about this many times, and I've achieved it many times for myself. And I guess what for me it was, okay, I had this business. Every month I got this horrendous, humongous check. I was able to go anywhere I wanted to go. I was able to do anything I wanted to do. I wasn't a billionaire, but I'm being modest here in that sense, but I had the freedom to do the things that I wanted to do at the scale that I was at. Now, so what I had to understand, what did that look like? Well, so I needed a picture. I needed to have some representation. Now, one of the aspects of this thing that you call your admin scale is all points must align with all other points. So this ideal scene really is a picture of my goal, which aligns with my purpose, which then dictates the policy that I will follow, and then creates the plan that I'm going to operate by, and the specific program details of the activities that I will do. And to make sure I get those done, I've added in all the other things. And then I've got my instructions and daily activities of what I need to do to accomplish this goal. So let's change this up from our business to you're building a new house. So you have an idea, you want, you got a family and you want to move into a new neighborhood, you're expanding, or you've got something's happening and you want a new home. And so the goal is to get this new home. Now, you've got some land that you're going to develop. So where do you go for this? Well, you got to go to somebody that knows what to do. And so you go to an architect. And the architect then sits down and talks with you, and he creates a picture of the home that you want. And it's that picture becomes the ideal scene. So if the house gets built according to this picture with all the bells and whistles that you want, you wanted a big kitchen, you wanted an open forum, you needed 4 bedrooms, you wanted 3.5 bathrooms, you wanted a family room, a living room, a dining room. And for me, I wanted a room for my pool table. And then you got a 3-car garage. And if you're a handy person, you might want a workshop, and then you want a nice bed, so you got to put in the details of what you want, because they're part of your goal, right? And they're part of your purpose is, so for example, you want to be able to send your kids to college. You want to be able to take care of your grandkids, whatever the case may be. It's that vision, because it's that vision that's going to be your motivation. You got your goal here. This is what it looks like. That's your motivation. That's why you're doing this. And it's got to be important enough to motivate you to do what needs to be done, just like anything else in life. So now you got this big picture. Now, next step, statistics. What I've come to realize is that all results come about by activities. Now, what's really fascinating is what activities create the results. In our business, there are many activities that create results. Contacting people is one. Making a presentation is another one. Making a phone call is another one. Following up on people that you've talked to is another one. Making a demonstration of the products that you've got is another one. Finding out what people need or want is another one. So in order to understand where one is at and what one needs to do to get out of where they're at, one needs to monitor the activities to results. And you do this in the form of statistics. What's a statistics? Well, a statistic is a measurement of production. So everything you do is a measurement. You can measure what you do. So you do phone calls, you write them down. You send out emails, you write them down. You make presentations, you write that down. And at the end of a given period, and we work on a month-to-month basis, you then have the ability to put those on an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, if you're using Apple, whatever plan they have, and see a picture of that performance. Now, here's what I'm going to say in this regard. It's either going up or it's going to go down. It never remains the same. So the results go up or they go down. And again, your job is to make them go up, and when they go down, correct them. So if you don't know the activities that you're done, and then you look at results, you have no way of monitoring your activities. So for example, you get involved in the business and the person says, well, you got to put together a list of people, and then you want to go share your products with them, and you want to go talk to them, and then you got to talk to the people that are in your organization, and you want to do some, you want to get on some Zoom events, and you got to get trained, and et cetera, et cetera. So you go out for the first 30 days and you talk to a bunch of people, and you're busy doing what you're doing. You're learning this business. You talk to your upline a couple of times, and maybe you get on a Zoom or two, and maybe you sell a product or two, and then you get to the end of the month and you look at your check that you get and you say, wow, man, that's not very much. But you didn't keep track of what you did. And as a result of that, you have one of two things is going to happen. It's either working or it's not working. Now, everything that we do is going to give you a perception. It's you that's perceiving it. So you are going to look at it as good, bad, or indifferent. I'll give you an example. The biggest check I ever got in Nikan was $142,000 for 1 month. Now, when I got that check, I jumped through the roof. Wow, unbelievable. I mean, I was ecstatic with the result, and I understood what the activities were because I had kept the statistics. So for me at that time, and this was a long time ago, it gave me the basis of what I did and what it created. This is the key. What do I do? What does it create? Because this is what you pass on. It's what you do, you pass on to somebody else. It's what they do. Remember how you make money in this business. It's when somebody else does something. When somebody buys a product from you, that's somebody else, you make a commission. When a distributor in your business sells a product, you make an override. If those two things do not happen, you don't make anything from those activities, right? So the idea is then we have to have activities that create a result. So that's why you want to monitor what it is you do and the results that you get. Two reasons. One is you can strengthen what you do to get a better result, or you can understand what was done so that you can promote that for a better event, and or you can teach somebody else what was done so they get a result. Because all results are created by doing an activity. So you got into this business, and there was a reason you got into this business. You got into this business because you were looking at a way or a solution or an idea that would help you with life and living in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's economic, whether it's social, whether it's, friendship, however you want to look at it. But you decided to do the business. And as a result of deciding to do the business, then it's kind of like you got to learn how to play the game, because it's a game. It has obstacles, it has barriers, it has objectives, it has, and of course, the company set up the objective, and that was with their compensation plan. So the importance of monitoring your activities then is crucial, because then you won't make the same mistake twice. In other words, you'll know what worked, and then you apply that, and then you keep applying that. And somebody says to you, well, I want to join your business and make $5,000 a month. Well, what do you do? Guess what you're going to have the ability to do? Is you're going to have the ability to teach them, show them, give them an example. And that's the key to how this business works. Okay, so you got the statistic. Now, here's the last piece of this puzzle. It's what are you producing as a result of all your work? And we call that the valuable final product. Now, I'm going to give you an example. And I did this was in the book. So when you get the book, you'll see this example again. But my business makes coffee tables. So my goal for having this business was, I'm a carpenter and I know how to do this, and I like this. I like woodwork and so on and so forth. So I'm going to set up a business that sells coffee tables. So the valuable final product that I'm actually creating are coffee tables. Now, if those coffee tables are desirable, then the public's going to buy them, and then I'm going to get the exchange of the economics that occurs. I want you to think about this, maybe on a piece of paper. So you have a coffee table, it's really nice, the people like it, they buy it. What I get is money. They use a credit card to buy it, that's on the web page, and then I take that money and I live my life. Now, what if the coffee tables that I made nobody liked? Then no one would buy those coffee tables. There would be no exchange for all the work that I did, and I wouldn't get anything to operate and live my life with. So no income. So I'd be spending a whole bunch of money, whether it's in time and labor costs or actual costs for goods. And again, I'm doing all the busy work. I'm going to the office every day. I'm plugging in, I'm making calls, I'm talking to people, I'm ordering products and doing all that sort of stuff. But the coffee tables, the design work and the factory work and all that sort of stuff, they're just coming out and nobody really wants them. So part of your business is to look at, well, what's all this business that you're doing, creating, that then can be exchanged or becomes valuable for what it is that you want. So I looked at this high and low, and I came to a conclusion that if I understand how this business works in a number of ways. But word of mouth, it works by word of mouth. It works when somebody buys a product, and it works when somebody distributes and becomes a distributor, because they then buy products and then they find customers and then they find other distributors. Now, What does the company do? Well, the company manufactures or finds products and represents them, creates a relationship, and then provides those products for you and I. They have a warehouse, and they have a platform and an e-commerce. They collect the money and they pay us a commission for when those products are bought or sold. So therefore, what is going to create that? Well, who brings in the customers? The customers come in through distributors. So if we look at an individual, and this is really important, guys, if we look at you as an individual, you have a sphere of influence, you have a number of people that you're going to communicate with, and then once you've run out of those people, then you got to go to the cold market to find your customers. So you got to go through advertising or some other means to find your customers. Now, what if, and this was the proposition, what if you found somebody that wanted to do what you're doing? Now, then what would they do? Well, they would go to their warm market and they would find the customers in their warm market. Now, it's said that every person has anywhere up to 400 contacts on their phone. Every single person. And most people have a warm market of 200 to 300 people. 97% of those people that come into network marketing come in through warm market. So if you think about it, then if I produced a distributor that was successful and was doing this as their primary way to make a living, that would be the product that has a one heck of an exchange. Now, when I penciled this out and looked at, in some cases, I've had this be worth millions of dollars by helping one person become successful. The exchange that I got out of it was in the millions of dollars. So the valuable final product that you're creating is a distributor that takes on Nikken or whatever and makes it their primary way of living and becomes successful. That's why you do all this work. So you go out there and so now we've got the top one is you got your goal, you got your purpose. Okay, you've got your policy that you're going to operate. The basic plan is you're going to do the Nikken thing. Your next step, your program or your activities, you create a list of everything that needs to be done, and then you go to work. And then you have other projects and trainings and events that need to be done to help you fulfill what you want to do. You follow that plan. You start at the first level. You go recruit some distributors. You have your orders that you give out. You set up your day. You've got your office that you work in. You got the picture of what you want on your wall, your ideal scene. You got your statistics of what you do on your wall, so you can look at your productions going up. You can correct it if it goes down. And you're producing these units of distributors that are successful and taking this on as their own business. Now you've got a business plan. Now you've got direction. Now you've got a game to play. So if for example, and we've got a few people on this call right now, and let's say that Lynn is one of my distributors. And so my objective with her is to go over these 10 points. And the real goal for me is that she does this as a full-time gig and becomes successful doing it. If that occurs, then the exchange of what I get becomes a reality and it fits into my plan. So what would I want to make sure happens is, one, she understands what to do. She gets help. I help her. We build it together. We're a team. She's not left by herself. She's supported. She understands what to do. Do you get the message here that, again, it's up to you to build your business. Now, this is a tool that you can use to build your business and make it easy. because you can identify what it is you want. You can understand the component parts. You can make sure the person that you go, and then you can offer something of value. So when I brought somebody into my business, what I knew going in was my job was to help them become successful. If I helped them become successful and they understood that, and then they knew the picture that was in, part of that, and they saw the structure and they knew the activities, then they knew how to, again, it worked like magic. I didn't need to go sponsor 55 million people. I just needed 6, and it ended up being 3. So again, it's very important. So number 1, what's your goal? And that's usually what you want. Number 2, what's the purpose of that goal? And those are lesser goals. You know, pay the bills, pay college, buy a car, go on vacations, whatever it is, list them out, understand what this means. It has to be important. What policy are you going to abide by aside from the company policy? That's the rules of your game that you establish for yourself and you establish with the people that you're working with. I mean, really important. And again, understand, how's it work? Well, communication is the universal solvent here. And it works when people communicate, and it works when people, it's word of mouth. And it works for you when people buy product, and it works for you when distributors sell product. So those are very, very important things to understand. So now you've got that done. Now what training is going to be involved? What events are you going to put on, and all those things? What are the orders that you're going to put out there? What is the ideal scene look like? What's the picture of what you want to create? You know, what are your daily activities? How are you going to monitor those? What statistics are you going to operate? And most importantly, what are you producing? So are you making a coffee table that people want to buy, or are you making a coffee table that people don't want to buy? So you bring somebody in and they're not successful, they don't go anywhere, and they kind of flip-flop around. So what's the valuable final product there? Zilch. So it gives a slightly different meaning of where you focus your attention, and it gives a slightly different meaning on when you're talking to the people that you're talking to, of how valuable and important they are. And away we go. Okay, so there's your lesson for today. I will stop the recording, and then we'll get into a quick Q&A. Thanks for being here today, and we'll see you next time on the Smart Network.